Hello, I'm Sudhanshu, co-founder at AntWalk and your host on the Human Quotient podcast. We believe at AntWalk that human skills, human capabilities will continue to matter for organizations today and tomorrow. And to discuss this, I am joined today by Tiffany Haynes. Tiffany is a dynamic force in the world of finance and human resources. Currently, she's working as an advisor to Billion Capital and also as a CEO at Fingercheck. With a wealth of expertise in FinTech and HR Tech, she navigates the intersection of innovation and industry with finesse. And Fingercheck is a pioneering HCM SaaS platform. So, at the helm of Fingercheck, she drives a transformative approach to workforce management, empowering small business owners to navigate the complexity of HR with ease and efficiency. So, Tiffany, first of all, welcome to the Human Quotient podcast. So, the first thing we want to understand is about your journey itself. Your journey from Jack Henry to becoming the COO at Fingercheck is really intriguing. What led you down this path? And was there any particular moment or your experience, in your experience where you thought, okay, this is the place I want to be?
Like my journey at Jack Henry was almost 2 decades long. So Jack Henry is a publicly traded financial technology company. So we do core processing for banks and credit unions. And in that journey, I started pretty young. I was going to college and grad school, and I had probably close to 9, I believe, different roles in the company. So I really rotated around a lot. I was in operations, I was in support, I was in HR. So I just had a great experience of growth there. When I started, we had about 1,200 employees. When I left, it was close to 7,000. So I really got to be part of like the scale mode of being at that company. I was not HR by trade. But I was a transformational leader. We were focused on a lot of people and culture work, competency frameworks, leadership development, succession planning, right? All like the bingo words that we didn't have. We didn't have established. And I was leading kind of those talent management charges, not because, again, I was the expert, because I just had a real passion to see that take root and take place, like as we leveled up as an organization. And then kind of through that process, I was offered the chief people officer role, reporting to the CEO. So I did that for 6 years. I was the only female reporting to the CEO at that time. And then after 6 years of the chief people officer role, I decided I would go back into operations and go run a P&L. Because that was kind of the next experience that I wanted. So I did that. I did that for about 18 months. And I really learned in that moment, I did not love just running operations. Like I really liked the marketing, the sales, like weaving things together and running all the teams simultaneously. And when, at least the way a lot of publicly traded companies or corporate structures, like sales, marketing, all those things belong in the G&A line. So I just wasn't going to be able to have that exposure to those things as quickly as I wanted. I was actually just going to go sit on a board of a FinTech or an HR tech. I think the small businesses are pretty underserved in terms of technology. So it's just been a great fit for me.
Well, we spoke about Fingercheck, right? And as the CEO at Fingercheck, you're in the driver's seat when it comes to crafting solutions. And small businesses, as you rightly said, they need these solutions. What do you reckon are the secret ingredients for creating tools that are both super easy to operate and also, make an impact, pack a punch?
Yeah, I mean, for us, like it kind of started with the payroll business, because payroll is complex. Like people don't want to do payroll, they don't want to do taxes, prevailing wages, reciprocity, right? They don't want to talk about those things. So for us in the beginning, it was really simple kind of value proposition of let's integrate your time and attendance system with your payroll system and just make your life easier. And so I do think that mantra kind of carries with us of like, we want to be the business partner you never really have to think about, because who really wants to think about payroll? But then over the years, like it just continued to morph into kind of like this light, very user centric, small to medium sized business focused tool set and platform. Like we started becoming and continue our pushing towards that, like becoming that deskless solution. But we're kind of the opposite of like we bundle it together because especially for the deskless worker, or small business owner where like your people are on the field or out, in a clinic or dental office or whatever, like your HR system is really your business operation system. Like you have to know where your people are, like where they're clocking in at, and they've got to have that capability and that mobility. So that's really what we do and why we play where we play, and love doing that for others.
As you spoke about, it is also about the user first approach. So, how do you make sure that the tech solutions that you whip up are a perfect match for the unique needs for the small business owners? Because there is a challenge there. Small businesses, not to businesses, are alike. There's a lot of diversity.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always a challenge, like regardless of what kind of SaaS tech end user company you have. I think for us, like once we kind of understood the deskless market, like really their needs and their requirements overlap despite the industry. There's industry specific things like construction industry, needs certain type of reporting and more compliance, and they want geofencing, and healthcare needs like a deeper like scheduling app, and they want to be able to draw down their wages every day after they work their shift. And then home repairs and, field workers and plumbers. So I think like from a vertical perspective, we've gotten pretty savvy at understanding their specific needs, underneath the umbrella of just that deskless model of most of the people, are out in the field doing their work. They're just not sitting behind a desk every day.
And AntWalk, one thing that we believe in is capability of people. And one way we work is around the capability frameworks, saying that if your people have the right set of capabilities, right set of competencies, that ties to the success of organizations. So, how do you ensure the alignment between individual capabilities and organizational goals?
When I think about Fingercheck, like we're like late stage startup, right? Like we're not the wild, wild west. All right. And we're not going to be the, red tape organization either, right? We're kind of in the middle. So because of that, right, you kind of begin to draw a line of like what's important here, like what makes people successful when they come to Fingercheck. And one of those things is just like being flexible, right? Like your process is great, and we want processes to carry us like 60 to 70% of the way, but we want creativity and innovation to take us the rest of the way, right? We want to make sure that we color in a different direction and not just, generically outside the box. So I think those are things that we really talk about a lot. At least Joel and I do, but also at the senior level of like what's important, because too, like different departments and functions have different needs, right? So, for example, our tax department is super rigorous, like as they should be, right? They're reporting information to the IRS, they're reporting things on W-2s. There's just more rigor in that. Same with like our banking and our risk departments. But then there's other functions like, our marketing or a product that just needs to have more creative liberties and thoughts. And we just need to try stuff, right? Like we've just got to try it, break it, edit it, iterate on it, all those things. And then, figure out how to operationalize it. So thinking optimistically as we kind of move forward, those are things we anchor to organizationally, but like competency wise, we really try to go more into like what is the function of that particular department or line of business, and what do we need from them so they can be the most successful.
One thing that we want to talk about also is change management. Change management dates back to 1940s when Kurt Lewin he introduced the concept of unfreezing, changing, and refreezing, how organizations and individuals adapt to change. So, one thing that we want to also understand is how do you approach change management to, say, ensure a smooth transition for your internal teams?
I've come in before and just been a pretty hard hitter and just did a big swath, big change. And there's a time and a place for that. And then I've had other situations where I think they're just more incremental, right? They're nudges. They're nudges towards where we need to go, which I think is, would like to say is the preferred methodology. But if there's a lot of years of people not moving things forward and not doing those incremental changes, then you have to do a big correction. But I think what's important is continuing to anchor to why are we doing this? Why do we even care about this? Like, why does this matter? And how are you part of that, right? Because we, especially like in American culture, like we get super caught up on like, what's the how to and what's the checklist and tell me what I need to go do. But we don't really step back and ask questions of like, well, why is this even like, why do we even need to do this? Like, what is the purpose of this? And so I think that's important is really anchoring to the bigger, I guess, philosophical reason for why we're doing this. And then how do you get to be part of that, right? How do you get to do things with other people, partner with them, create new ways to hopefully achieve, different outcomes. And that's where the fun part is. Like, especially when you're growing and scaling a company, I really try to repeat that narrative. Like, this is the fun part. Like, we're figuring it out. It's kind of messy. We know where we need to go. We have clarity. We don't have the perfect path. That's okay. Like, this is the fun part. This is the fun part. Just to remind people, because it is, you can get so frustrated with, well, it didn't work this way and it's not working that way. And what are we going to do next? Right. Like, just iterating as a leader, like, hey, this is the fun part. Like, things are kind of like out there. They're not totally connected. We see them. It's a little messy. Like, let's figure this out. And that's really powerful because that gets people excited. And it is exciting because it is fun work.
How do you inspire and lead a multifunctional team of a large organization, 1,000 plus employees, 100 plus employees, especially considering the challenges of, say, remote work, hybrid work, and diverse roles? Is there any principle that drives your professional journey?
I think definitely when you're leading multifunctional teams, you cannot be the expert at all of them, right? Like, and that's not, and you just got to own that. Like, you're not there to be the expert. You shouldn't be the expert. And when you are the expert, it's often dysfunctional. So you really have to think about, okay, so I'm not going to be the expert at these things. What value do I have to bring? And how can I just step into that and operate in that mindset? And if I'm operating in what I do well in my mindset, like, people will naturally follow. So for me, I'm not the domain expert in any of the functions at Fingercheck nor in my previous role, right? But like, what my ability is to bring clarity and perspective to what needs to happen and to thread all the pieces and parts together so that people understand how they're interconnected. and how what I do affects this person. And then it's much more fun to do it with somebody than just like live in a silo, right? So I can kind of shine a light horizontally across the different functions and like attach people to one another. But that doesn't mean like if I have somebody who's not a domain expert or is, kind of over their skis on their function, that causes dysfunction. So you have to correct that as a leader. So I think it's all just about like, again, like identifying like what your character, like your strong character traits are, and just like stepping in and just, yeah, just being part of that. Like that is who you are, and being clear about where your lane is, and other people that they'll follow. They people want to follow a good leader. So
So we currently live in a world where there are we need tools, and the world over needs tools, wherein tools which offer real-time insights into workforce capabilities and potential gaps are say that is what we believe at AntWalk. But this is a very interesting space for any HR tech, right? By harnessing data analytics, AI, organizations can align talent with objectives, people with strategic objectives. So you are at the helm of an organization which is at the intersection of fintech and HR tech. How do you see where do you see this space evolving? How do you see Fingercheck positioning itself to lead in these areas?
yeah, I mean, I think it's a toughie because the payroll industry in and of itself, if we just think about that piece of Fingercheck, really hasn't been disrupted. So we kind of have this like dichotomy of like, why are we stuck? Um, which is really challenging. And I do think that's where, Fingercheck is really trying to push the envelope a little bit. Why we were passionate about making sure our earned wage access platform was integrated into our payroll system, versus like a daily pay or a Zoom where it's not a real time. Like, I don't know if that employee really did work or didn't work. Well, I do, because I have the time and attendance data. I have the payroll data. I know their taxes. Right. So I think those are areas where Fingercheck's really trying to push things forward, in terms of like integrating those systems, making like we have an employee of record. We can push payroll, next day, same day, instantly, from a Rails perspective. And then, yeah, I think again, just like not just letting that be for the big companies, right? The small businesses, the mid-market businesses, they should have that functionality and that capability just as much as, Target and Walmart and whoever else you want to put on that list. And so because, small business workers are, almost 50% of the workers in America.
So if you could organize a Fingercheck sponsored event for small business owners, what would it?
I think there's just like so many just little things that the small business owner nobody teaches them, right? They're passionate about, like, I think of my favorite coffee shop, right? Like, Hannah's passionate about making me a cup of coffee, an oat milk latte, right? She's not passionate about like social media. I mean, she does it because she has to, right? But nobody taught her how to do that, right? So I just think there's probably, if I were just to have that kind of conference, it would just be like, here's everything you need to know about social, and here's everything you need to know about your website, and business taxes or marketing or tax savings, like just stuff that helps them function and be more likely to stay in business, because the stats on those small businesses closing is really high, and so it's a high risk business, and we want to help them. So that would be my wish.
And if you could swap your role with any Fingercheck employee for a day, who would it be and why?
I would probably swap with a customer support rep. We've learned at Fingercheck, like payroll is personal. And so I think our customer support reps like understand that and talk, they talk to those small business owners or those mid-market business owners directly. And so they have a ton of empathy and a ton of insight. I don't know necessarily how to do their job, because I couldn't answer the questions that they answer every day, but I really appreciate what they do, because I understand how important it is to that business owner.
If you could recommend uh, one book or a podcast that has a significant influence on your journey.
Yeah, my favorite book is The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. That book is fantastic because it has no answers in it. It's just like a group of like short stories about how freaking hard it is to, lead a company. And I think in a culture where we're very like solutions oriented and answer oriented, there's no perfect play. It's super messy. You have to use, wisdom and discernment, and you have to try stuff and ask for grace and just do your best. And so I love that book for that reason.
And if you could magically automate one tedious task, what would it be?
It's really hard to get people to like move payroll providers because, right, you got to like onboard any employees, and you got to, if it's, mid-year, you got all the year-to-date information to bring over. And there's, of course, like great tech for that. And we have a lot of it and employ it, but it's still hard, right? Like it's still like a mental gymnastics exercise to get the business owner to be like, okay, like I'm going to do this. Right. So I think if I could like figure out a way to make that simpler.
Finally, what is your go-to strategy to keep your team motivated during tough times?
Yeah. Our year end is super intense, right? Because we're, getting all the tax forms out the door. There's a lot of extra questions from the business owners. So we're not perfect at it, but I think we're learning to position it, and it is like it's a season, right? Like this is year-end season. It's really crazy busy, right? We're all going to get tired, but it's a season. And we're not going to run like this for 12 months. We're going to run like this from December 1st to, middle of February, and then it'll be over. So we just talk openly about it. Like it's intense, some different, we talk to them, like we're going to employ some different labor models, like have some more part-timers, some more floaters, right? But it's all about communicating with them what we're trying to do. Like you have mental health days, take your mental health day if you need one. So, just maintaining that really open and transparent dialogue where like, it's okay to not be okay. Let's see how we can work through it, and just keeping those conversations at the forefront of all of our departmental meetings and our monthly meetups and the things that we do, but just keeping an acknowledgement there.
So, Tiffany, thank you so much. And if you could leave our audience with one key takeaway, what would it be?
If I could give you one piece of encouragement, it's just like you need to lead from your whole self. Like if you're not taking care of yourself in a holistic way, mind, body, spirit, emotion, and practicing, being healthy and, whatever you need to do, whatever that looks like, because it looks different for everybody. If you're not doing those things, like you're not going to be a successful leader, because people follow people they want to follow, right? And so I would just encourage people to be reflective and really think about your inner health and your emotional intelligence and your resiliency and your upbringing and how that plays into your present day story, like all the things, right? Because as you become more aware and gracious towards yourself and kind towards yourself, you get to be more gracious and kind towards others because that capacity grows. So yeah, I would just say just leading from your whole self, and showing up in that capacity, in a genuine way.
Thank you for those wonderful insights, Tiffany.